What's up, my friends? Welcome to episode 6 of Memers in a Prius drinking kombucha. Today we got some Louisiana stuff right here. I got Bayou Berry. What you got?
Satsuma Kombucha, streetcar sipper.
Amazing. So you're on the page Float Tank Universe? Float Universe?
Yes.
Garrett? Good friend?
That's me.
So what got you started on, you got 20,000 followers on a page about, what would you say it's about? Float tanks, psychedelics?
Well, it started as a journey into figuring out why I ended up where I was in my life at the time, in a very dark spot, in the bottom of a relationship I was in, and the float tank, and then the psychedelics, and the man who was kind of my guru, who was actually kind of 10 years younger than me. We started to have this journey together. The memes were always there for me. The memes were kind of guiding me along through this journey as I was seeing informed through the memes how the collective consciousness was just in so much pain. And so every morning I just wake up and look at these memes and see people with penguins, nooses, and garbage bags, and I was just identifying with that. I'm like, okay, like, why am I identifying this? Why is this so funny to me? And you know, the float tanks eventually just showed me, and the psychedelics as well, that there was a massive amount of just self-hate and darkness inside of me. And the floating and the psychedelics and the spiritual path has really helped me work through that. So that's kind of the reason why I started to do it. I also started because I started floating, and there wasn't a lot of people talking about floating. There wasn't a culture, a mainstream culture about it at all. It was a very underground thing, and so...
You picked something that you're passionate about.
Most definitely, yeah.
You're on kind of a mission, so before I met you yesterday, I was like, I feel like you just want to get all of your favorite memers in a float tank, and then once that mission is complete, you just disappear into the universe, and you're...
Maybe. I mean, I'm kind of reaching a point now where I've done this for 3 years. I've taken many people on different journeys, and I've explored the main 3 psychedelics of LSD, psilocybin, the mushrooms, and a little bit of DMT. So, you know, I've kind of gotten the message for myself, which it's time to move on, and you don't want to get stuck in these things because they're at a certain point they start hindering your spiritual progress. So for me, it's just, I want to offer the same thing that was offered to me through grace, through a higher power at the bottom of where I was at. Just, it was given to me. Well, when you're ready for something, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So the float tank appeared, and then my openness to that allowed the psychedelics to enter. The minute I dropped my judgment on the psychedelics, those started to enter more. So it's just been telling the truth of my journey, because that's one thing I've noticed about a lot of meme accounts. The people who are the most honest, they have the most resonance with people. The truth has the most resonance. It's just it's the way it is. It's the truth. So
the people that really put themselves out there.
Yeah, people that speak the truth. Like one of my friends who I became really close with on this journey was an account called Bunny Memes, and she's a female. She lives about 3 hours south of here in Miami, and you know, I just saw inform the struggle of the female, which I didn't really understand when I got on this journey as a white male. I didn't understand a lot of these things that I learned on Instagram over the past year. So Instagram, all these wonderful accounts, they've been great, excellent teachers to me. And I'm so thankful for all the experience I've had getting knowledge and giving knowledge, because it's an amazing thing to be able to have some insight about yourself and wonder if it's some kind of truth, and then, you know, place it in front of 15, 20,000 people, you know. And so recently, in the past few trips, the psychedelics are telling me to, like, help your heroes. And so what that means for me is somebody like you, like, you're one of my heroes, to be able to put you in the tank and to show you a different way of living and thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully inspiring other people to pass that on. So yeah, I mean,
I've learned a lot from you.
And likewise, it's been a beautiful journey. And you and both Spencer, I thank both of you, because you were the kindest to me in the beginning when you didn't need to be kind to me. When I had 500 followers and I wasn't even making memes, you know. But I've always been a meme fan from the very absolute beginning. I've probably been a meme fan for at least 10 years.
You were so passionate on the comment section of New Woke Order that I just had to...
Oh man, I love that account. And a funny thing about this kombucha is, I talk about stuff like this in the account, hippie stuff, books, obviously psychedelics, kombucha even, and I hadn't touched kombucha because in my journey looking at these things, I saw it was made, and I'm like, no, I'm good on that. You know, it looks like a big old snot
That's
ball.
your first sip of kombucha.
So that was literally my first sip of kombucha, and it's just the divine order that's placed me here to have it with you is really what I'm living every day. That beauty of, you know, there's a reason for everything in your life why you haven't done certain things at a certain time, so don't worry about it, you know. So for whatever reason,
everything falls into place.
We've been waiting a long time to have this sip, so yeah, man. I just want to help people and show them there's alternate ways to help yourself. Like one of the things you'll learn if you take enough psychedelics or float long enough is you're kind of the thing, you know, like the universe kind of revolves around you, and it's not to be conceited, it's in a loving way, you know, like you still the mind, and through that stillness, everything works downstream from that. So that's the importance of the float tank. If we can get you in there and flatten out your mind, show you who you really are, then everything starts working downstream. There's a homeostasis of the body, there's the flatness of the mind, and when that starts to happen, then the heart opens up. And so then you really start to go places. So that's why I think the tank, the psychedelics, I'll never not love them. I'll never not say, you know, please, you know, you should do them. You should give them a try if they come to you. But the tank is the perfect for somebody who doesn't necessarily have access to the psychedelics or doesn't want to mess with something that is, you know, illegal. So the float tank is this beautiful experience for somebody to have a mind and body experience legally and relatively inexpensive. I mean, a lot of these floats, we're talking about $50 to $75 is the national average price. So a lot of people are like, oh, I can't afford that, but you can definitely afford $50 to $100 to go out and drink on a Friday night. So why not reinvest it in yourself? So it's just about a paradigm shift for people.
I feel the same way about you waiting for kombucha. I could have floated a bunch of times. I've been, you know, when I went through my Joe Rogan podcast phase when I was working as an accountant in an office, I could have went out and did it, but I'm glad I waited until I had you explain.
Me too, man. It's just been such a beautiful experience the past 48 hours. You're going to want to turn around here.
All right.
Make a U-turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went and floated yesterday, and it was such a beautiful experience. And one thing I've been trying to do is, again, in a trip, I had this experience telling me, help these memers out, because I love all of you guys, all of you, like even some of these hardcore, not so spiritual accounts. I love to see that mirror of the collective consciousness in form, and that's what Instagram is for me. Every time I scroll down that feed, every time I do some spiritual work, my feed gets better because the world is rotating around what you feel and think about yourself. And so the minute you start to love yourself, you see that brightness start to come back to your world. You can reapproach childhood in terms of your feeling and that glow and that love you feel, that innocence. It can be reapproached, and it's all about working off the layers of the mind. So that's why we do the tank.
Mm-hmm. You're on a journey to save the memers, and if you can reach the people that have reached, then you're making a bigger wave.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if I can just influence maybe 20 people, like you, a few other people, we're talking 500,000 plus people per account, and you're just one person that kind of herds the whole thing. So if I can affect you and change your perspective on reality, that'll go downstream into the memes. And so and if I'm affecting 20 people, if 20 people get in the tank, or do a little acid, or take a mushroom, not necessarily have to go to that extreme, but if you just start floating, the process will start to unfold. That's why you just have to get in that first time and see what happens. Let go of your judgment of it. Let go of thinking you don't have the time. You definitely, if you don't have the time for it, you definitely need to do it. Because that's your priority number one. Again, this whole thing, when you get a far enough perspective on it, it's revolving around you and the way you feel about yourself and the world. That's why the golden rule is the absolute number one thing you have to follow. You're just meeting, you know, yourself in every person you meet. When you serve other people, you're actually serving yourself. So all these things have opened up for me because of the floating and
I'm really glad
psychedelics.
I'm really glad I did 90 minutes because for the past couple months, it's like I drive like 4 hours, pick somebody up at the airport, go to this hotel, go do this. Like, I'm just so busy and thinking, like, talking to like 100 people a day, making plans. So it took me like 20 minutes to relax probably. And then once I did that, I had a good hour to just disappear into
That's a good point, because I was telling you guys this yesterday. 60 minutes is just enough to get about halfway in there, and then you get kicked out because it's over. You're gonna need that first 20-30 minutes to just acclimate. And so I guess I'll give you a few tips here for people that are watching this that maybe will go float. You get in the tank, or actually no, you get your shower, take a lukewarm shower, don't take a hot shower. If you take a super hot shower before you get in, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna touch yourself, salt's gonna get in the eye. So take a nice lukewarm to cold shower if possible. When you get in, center yourself against the walls of the tank and just lay there. Just breathe, not so deep, but just breathe for 20 minutes, and see what happens.
It'll take you away.
It definitely will, man. It definitely will. And this is, like I said, this is an absolute dream come true. This, sitting here in this car with you, is proving to me that you definitely need to follow your bliss. And a lot of times your bliss involves judgment. And so in my case, my bliss for the past few years, working out of this situation, was just making memes, looking at memes, and smoking weed. I'm just going to be honest with you. That was my bliss. That's what made me happy. And the minute I stopped judging that, this whole experience really took off for me. Because of course we're gonna judge. Oh, I should be working. I should be making money. I should be doing X, Y, and Z. But no, that was my therapy. Memes, dealing with you guys, the few that would actually interact with me and go on this ride with me, and just working on myself and working through the collective. And so to be able to just sit here with you, this is proof that this is a dream, that anything can happen, that you need to follow your bliss, and you need to let go of the judgment of yourself. Especially if you're judging things that could be beneficial for you. Really look at your judgments.
Me sitting here is the same thing, because I sat on my phone for 3 years. So it's I was just putting all my energy into that one phone without, everybody was like, what are you doing? Are you making money? Why are you wasting all your time doing this? But it turned into something, whatever this is. I'm driving around.
Well, that's the thing. You keep pulling at that string, That's what I keep telling people. You find that string of your joy, no matter how mundane or idiotic or the way the world might judge it. You just keep pulling at it. Mm-hmm. And if it makes you happy, it's not causing destruction in your life, keep pulling at it. Don't judge it. See what happens. And eventually, you'll start to pull out a bigger form, and you'll know what it is. And that's kind of where we are right now, I think. You on this journey and me on my journey. Mm-hmm. So
I'm pulling at this string. I don't know what the purpose is.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it, though. There's no judgment of it, and we're not worried about what the outcome is. That's what the Zen guy, the Zen master, is doing. He's not worried about the outcome. He's just doing what's in front of him, mm-hmm. with no expectations of the prize or the result. So that's what we try to do. Just my philosophy is, what is being offered to me today? Because that's literally all I can do. If you're in the past, you're depressed. If you're in the future, you're anxious. Right? Or if you're suffering anxiety because you're contemplating a situation that may or may not even happen. So my philosophy is, right here in the moment, what's being offered to me, every person that's in front of me is the Lord, is God, is you, is the other, right? Because you're this being that we're just one being, but we've been individualized and having this subjective experience as the little self. So the whole thing about floating is, we get still enough to recognize that we are not the mind and body, and that makes life so much easier, knowing that these set of problems are not my problems, they're Garrett's problems, they're Float Universe's problems. It's his body that's going through this karma. I can identify with it, I can suffer with it, or I can still my mind enough and open my heart enough to realize the truth that I am not the body, I am not the mind, and I can just blissfully go with what's being offered to me, because I'm not seeking some egoic outcome. It's just like you said, there's part of me that just wants to wrap this thing up when I'm done and just walk away.
Yeah.
Just go sit in the woods and just, until I'm called again. But right now, I've tried to even destroy the account in the psychedelic experience. I've had very hard trips lately where I don't want to keep doing this. I get it. When you kind of get the message, you just leave it alone.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'm going to keep doing with this account is continue to honor my truth in the spiritual process and the psychedelics. But for the most part, with the psychedelics, just be the gatekeeper for people, kids in particular. There's a lot of indigo children, rainbow children coming into this world, and they're going to be, especially the rainbow children, they supposedly come in with no karma. So for a rainbow child that is going to enter this world, I want to give them the best knowledge possible. So the psychedelics are a good thing to try.
Alright, now this is part 2.
Okay.
After the commercial break.
So we were talking about not getting lost in the psychedelics. So you want to try them if they're offered to you. If you feel it's in alignment, if they're offered to you, if you didn't go seeking them, maybe consider doing them. If you are seeking them, be very careful, because a lot of times that'll turn into a bad trip. You know, they want to find you at the right time. And that's kind of been where I'm at right now, is I'm trying to be this person giving this to the world, but it's not my place to do it. And so for me, the past few trips that we've had, they've kind of, for me at least, they've kind of gone a little south, because it's telling me, you know, you've learned just enough where it's time to go to that next level where you can have this bliss all the time, not just 2 hours, but the full every day, all the time. So in my spiritual practice, I practice a non-duality. There is no yin and yang. There is no one or two. There is no black or white. Everything's just one. I just see things as one. I see everybody as one. And what I realize with the psychedelics, it's kind of kicking me out of that state of mind. It's messing with my mind a little too much. So when you get in a message, hang up the phone and move on. You know, they're medicines. We're not supposed to be sitting there in the medicine cabinet all day long sucking them down. So, you know, please.
You've been on the phone for a while?
I've been on the phone for a very long time, and I'm very lucky to not get stuck on the phone. Yeah. A lot of people think that is the ultimate reality, and it's just not. Terrence McKenna, I think he gave DMT to a monk, a Tibetan monk, and the monk said that this is equivalent to the outer bardo. If you go any further than this is where you actually die. So they're not really, they're showing you something, and I really think it's really good for people who are stuck, who are lost, who are in a materialistic or in a just a non-spiritual place, because it really breaks that free. It really opens people up, and LSD is more of a mind drug and a oneness drug. Mushrooms, the psilocybin, they're very alien, and it almost feels like an entity a lot of times is in control. So there's that aspect of that. And then DMT is like, it scares me to death, because it's like, for me, I'm on the launch pad at Kennedy. I'm on the spacesuit, and I know this sucker's about to go. Yeah. And it's not just going into space, it's going to another dimension. And it's 15 minutes there and back. And then you're back to baseline, which is the most beautiful thing about it. It's the businessman's lunch drug, right? You can go on your break, take it, and you're fine. Except for the fact that you just, like, literally, you barely survive by being astonished so much. Like, that's the only thing you've got to worry about with DMT, death by astonishment. Also, just don't seek them. Let them come to you. If I could give any advice to anybody watching this who really wants them, do the work that's on your plate. If they're really meant for you to have them, they will come to you. It's just, in my experience, they will find you. And when I find them myself is when they punish me. So for me, that's my advice. Everybody will tell you something different. Everybody's on a different trip looking for other things. But if you do them long enough, they will just destroy who you formerly were. So if you like who you are now, don't get into psychedelics. If you like who you are now, perhaps not even get in the float tank, you know, like, but then again, I take that back. If you like who you are now, the float tank's only going to take you to the next level. You're not sitting in some pool of self-hate that you need to be pulled out of. So the float tank will definitely, I think, help people like that. But yeah.
The float tank's good, because you can go in it, you can see what it's about, and you can open the door if you want to get out.
That's true. Yeah, the float tank, it's
really hard to open the door with the other.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, once you're in that experience, it's once that tab goes in your mouth and that mushroom's in your stomach, man, buckle up for 6 to 12 hours, depending on what you did. But yeah.
So I wanted to thank you for this custom-made float tank shirt, in case anybody's wondering what this is. Oh,
well, you're very welcome. It was my absolute pleasure to be able to give it to you.
It's an incredible gift.
Anybody that wants to be initiated into the float tank club, you know, hit me up. I'll try to come out to you. I'll try to set something up with some of these float centers. I've been so graciously blessed with a big majority of the float centers, at least in the United States, willing to work with me. And, you know, I've been very disappointed, because I reached out about 3 or 4 months ago to about 5 or 6 female memers who I just saw or just looked like, to me at least, going through a time, and I wanted to try to introduce it. But the float centers hooked me up. They reached out, and none of them floated. So you, thankfully, have been the first memer that has floated. And we tried to. We tried with Lee in Georgia. We tried in Boston before you left, but it was just meant to be with me and you, just like it was meant to be this with me and you. Like, this is literally the beauty of the situation is I've been on the edge of this world for years, and I've never tasted this stuff. I've just judged it. So that's the other thing too. Judgment.
Kombucha memes are really funny.
They are. They really are, and they're really good at getting people. Yoga too. Yoga's a good tag. Yoga, woke is a good tag. Kombucha, booch. Is what they call this too. SCOBY, S-C-O-B-Y.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a kombucha aficionado, but just working the memes and the tag, you learn these things. So yeah, man, it's just I've learned so much from Instagram just by just not judging it. And that's the thing, judgment. Look at your judgments. If I guess I have anything to say, even with the psychedelics, like MDMA, I judged that for years because it wasn't a plant.
Yeah.
I was on the whole Terrence McKenna trip of just plants, because you've got 5,000 years of pharmaceutical use out in the wild. We know what's going on with the brain and the body, but these newer drugs like LSD and MDMA, I kind of judge them because they're not plants. Well, I'll take that back about MDMA. I would highly recommend anybody that's having problems opening up their heart, having empathy issues, particularly men. If you've never done MDMA, I would definitely, if it comes to you, give it a try under the right conditions. Do your homework on that. Drink a lot of water, and do it in a peaceful setting, loving setting.
I'm not familiar with MDMA personally, but
I haven't been too familiar with it either. But it's just, as I let go of my judgments, these things come to help me. So I judged MDMA for a long time, and it was the thing I needed to open up my heart. And so it's one of those things too, beautifully, you cannot keep doing, because MDMA punishes you literally. If you do it the next week and do it wrong, it just takes to deplete your brain. So with MDMA, a month minimum between trips, and 3 months is really what the master himself says. So if that's what he says, I try to stick to those things. I don't try to push these things. So you can take a left here.
So we go back to the Radisson.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Still got a little time here.
Incredible information.
Well, that's just it. I just want
a powerful new perspective.
I want the truth to be out there. I want you people to know that there's opportunities that are not pills, not a pharmacist, not anything brutal. I mean, this is the most grace I've ever been given, is the float tank, because you can literally just be a lazy ass, lay there.
I'm into it.
And just let your mind be free. And here's the other thing. Marijuana in the float tank, I floated almost, I think, 500 times at least, something like that. I say a good 75% of those times were stoned. Don't do the first few times stoned. You want to have a baseline understanding what floating is and isn't. So go take your edibles later. Go smoke later.
I'm glad mine was dead sober.
Yeah, me too.
You got to feel it out.
You really got to understand what it is, and then you can start mixing. It's the same thing with the psychedelics. Everybody wants to mix them all. That's fine, but understand the essence of each one before you start doing those things. And even then, sometimes they just negate each other.
Yeah.
These things have a mind of their own. They're spirits. And I tell people, when you're ready to do a psychedelic, treat it like you're going at the feet of a master. Like fast, do spiritual preparation, get some intention behind it. That's the fastest way to have a bad trip, is to have no intentionality, eat wrong, go into a trip on a heavy stomach full of grease and meat. That's the last thing you want to do. So the more intention you give the psychedelic. What's that?
No McChickens before it and a large coffee.
No, and not a good idea. Same thing with floating too.
Which way do I go?
Go left, yeah. Same thing with floating. You don't want to be sitting in there for 90 minutes and trying to get deep when your stomach's growling or you got to go to the bathroom. So easy on the stomach for the psychedelics, the floating, and the spiritual experience.
Good point.
Not a lot of people really care about that in this society, but for me, that's been another breakthrough, is just understanding the diet and having an empty stomach is a faster way to enlightenment. Not eating heavy things, not taking on, if you believe it, the vibration of the animal, like the pain and suffering of the cow or the chicken. A lot of people believe that, so that's for you to decide. There's even
I've got a lot of work to do on my diet.
Yeah. Well, I'm no saint either. A lot of times I will actually eat meat after a psychedelic experience to ground myself, and I know that's not the best way to do it, but it works for me. So everybody's different. I've even heard beliefs that it's not what you eat, it's what you think about what you eat, how you judge what you eat. So if you can eat McDonald's cheeseburgers 24/7 and not have any judgment behind it at the deep and core level, it's not going to affect you. But if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm eating this shitty food and I'm hurting myself, then guess what? That's like, I don't know if that's the truth, but a lot of times I feel like our judgment and our beliefs on things are actually what kind of like sets us going in a certain direction health-wise. So, be kind with yourself in everything you do. please put yourself number one in a compassionate way. You know, don't make other people number two to be number one, but just, you know, love yourself. Deep compassion for yourself. And you'll see that the whole world changes around that. That's the most simplest thing, and this is why the float tank, for those that are willing to do it, will change their lives. It'll just show you who you really are through the stillness. Because your mind is like a snow globe all shaken up. There's stuff in the snow globe. There's a beautiful thing in the center of it, which is you, the truth of who you are. But the reality, the phone, all these things we're dealing with, when we live like that, our mind is like a snow globe that's been shaken up, and we don't know what the true contents of who we are. And when we still ourselves, we can see the truth.
Is this us?
No, keep going. All the way.
Cool. Well, I appreciate hanging out, everything you did for me. You've been an
God bless you,
friend.
man. And likewise, like, just love everybody as yourself. And I think that's why we came together, because I loved your memes. I love what you were doing. I felt there's a few people in the game that are just doing it right, and you were one of them. Just the right amount of memery, the right amount of edge, the right amount of just the right amount. Like, just, you know, you and a few other people. I won't say names, but there's a few other memers out there. I feel like we're truly meant to do this for the rest of us. And I feel like we can all, if we all just start working together and loving ourselves deeper, we'll start to see this understanding better. Like, I really appreciate what you're doing, because you're mirroring it in a way what I'm about to do, which is to kind of just prove to myself that I am, you know, we are, again, not in the wrong way, but we are gods. And by going out there and proving that, by throwing ourselves at the mercy of the world every day, you in the car and me with the psychedelic experience, we are shown the grace. We are shown who we really are. We are shown that we are never going to be without, you know. And so you are the truth in form for me. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm dream weavers, you know. It's such a beautiful thing. Like, when you reach the state of being, and this is why I have to let the psychedelics go, I'm walking in a state of wu-wei, synchronicity in almost everything I do and experience. And that is outside of the psychedelic experience. So this is where I want to stay. So for me to keep dumping in and jumping into the psychedelic pond is not necessarily the best thing for me right now. I may come back to them 6 months from now. I will always help people experience it. I think it's something to experience. It's kind of like sex, one of those things you need to do before you die. But they're not for everyone, so follow your heart.
Appreciate the wisdom, brother.
Thank you. I love you, man. I love everything that everybody's out there doing. Just please keep doing that. Just keep following that. Like, I love you all. You're all so amazing. I love all the memes everybody's doing. I wanted to send a shout out to one person in particular who asked for a shout out. 808 Bye. So there you go.
What up, son?
What up, homie? Thank you. If anybody needs a shirt made, he's one of these guys to go see. So check him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else, man, I hope to see some of you out there. If you need any help, I'm always open on my Instagram. I'm always trying to sit in a space of loving unattachment. So if you ever need any help with anything, afloat, advice.
How many hours a day do you spend contacting float centers for your followers for free floats just because you want them to?
Some days I'll spend a whole 2 or 3 hours in the morning just doing these things, reading people's messages, trying to set them up, trying to give them advice. So
everything for free.
Everything for free, because the thing is, again, when you have the ultimate realization of who you are, everything's going to be taken care of. So as long as I keep telling my truth to people, the story will keep evolving. It's all about truth. The minute you step out of the lie, the seas part. So this is why, cheers. Thank you. God bless you all.
Love you, bro. Good episode.
Love you too.